Well, welcome to Focus Gaming News, and we have with us today René Jansen, the chairman of the Netherlands Gaming Authority. René, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, if we could start with, it's a lot happening in the Netherlands at the moment. Obviously, we all know that the Netherlands is due to go live with this regulation of online gaming next year, for the middle of the year, start of July. How is the process going at the moment to prepare for that big launch? Are things looking like they're going to be on schedule for a July the 1st launch at the moment?
Well, I think we will be ready to start the application process when it's time, when the new Remote Gambling Act will enter into force. Of course, for us, it is a very rough ride, so to say, because we have to work hard. It's a complicated law. There's many regulations. We have to fit in procedures for the application of licenses for the future. But all the same, we're on track. And so when the time has come, we will be ready. I must say one thing, though, I'm not quite sure whether we will be opening the market on July 1st next year, because at the last parliamentary debate, the minister who is responsible for the gambling legislation, it's our Minister for Legal Protection, he hinted on a few months of delay, a further delay, I must say, due to the COVID-19 containment measures, which complicated certain processes. Among others, of course, our communication with future operators, legalized operators, on certain elements that is very we need for the application process.
Yeah, it's understandable that the pandemic has delayed communications for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How, from the regulator's point of view, how confident are you of the way the regulations stand and the potential for a high channelization to direct players who are maybe already playing on unregulated products towards the newly regulated market?
Yeah. Well, I'm quite sure that we have our targets that has been publicized, but also by the government at first hand, is something like 80% channelization within 3 years after market opening. And what I see and hear around me, also from the legal field and from the field of advisors to the operators, is there quite some interest of parties who are studying to see if they are going to apply for a license in the future. So I think the Netherlands, the Dutch market might be a very interesting market. So at this moment, we are quite confident this channelization target could be achieved. Of course, you never know until the moment that you can look back at the process, and then we might be in a position that we have to change some elements of the regulation. But for now, I think we feel quite happy with the way things are going on.
Excellent. I know recently that the regulator, you issued warnings to several companies over advertising that was using the current pandemic situation in your way to promote products. I know previously you warned that operators that were found doing that could be at a risk of not being considered for a license when the regulated market opens. Is that still the case? Are there operators that were subject to those warnings who could be at a risk of not securing a license because of that?
Well, what we see, maybe looking back at the last month, the situation when our land-based casinos and our land-based arcades had to close down, and because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw several movements on the online field. Of course, first and foremost, I think we saw that sports betting went down dramatically because it's a huge tumbling down, because sports, of course, had to quit itself. I think we saw a lifting, an increase of poker, And as it comes to online casinos, I think we saw an equal number of players or a slight increase of the number of players. But you could see, as you stated, that many operators, or at least I must say some operators and some affiliates of those operators, tried to create a new field, new possibilities for new players, for new punters, by ads, marketing like corona-free gambling. And well, of course, that's something we really find despicable. So that might have an influence on future license applications, because of course, this will be part of the reliability tests that we will be having in place for before we can open the market.
Mm. I know earlier on during the pandemic, so at the start of the pandemic, the KSA had reported you'd seen an increase in unlicensed gaming activity, particularly poker you mentioned, and also also bingo.
Bingo, yes, the other one. Yeah.
Have you seen that sort of return to normal now since lockdown measures have been relaxed?
I'm glad you mentioned bingo, because we saw also an increase on that front. And I must say we were a little lenient on that one, because we could see that many of those bingo offerings were directed towards elderly people who were stuck at home, who couldn't leave their homes. So we had a lenient approach until a few weeks ago. I think it's, for me, not really good to see, not possible yet to give you any recent numbers of what we saw since opening up again of our casinos and arcades, which was on July 1st. It's now some 3-4 weeks later, and I haven't seen the latest numbers, but I think there might be some, well, going back to normal in a certain sense before we had our lockdown, because, well, land-based providers, operators opened up, sports has restarted. I don't know exactly about bingo and poker, but I think there might be a little bit back to normal.
Okay. And recently, the Netherlands, you've published the new market vision for gaming, and the market vision for the future foresees the gradual abolition of the remaining monopolies and state participations in the gaming sector. What kind of response has been received to the consultation, and do you think that monopolies such as the Holland Casino, the Dutch Lottery, will be ready for that opening up of competition?
Informally, we had a few very positive reactions on our new launched market vision, which is right now being consulted. So there's quite some time to go until everyone can have its formal reaction toward it. It's the first week of September, I guess, that will be closing time. So it's not possible to give an actual oversight right now. As it comes to the question whether our monopolies that we have right now, Holland Casino, Dutch Lottery, will be ready for their new position they might have in future, I must say, well, it's quite a long way to go, because, you know, we are the market regulator. We have made this study, and that can be shown and be seen as an advice to government, because of course it's not us, it is government who is changing legislation on the legal framework, and of course that will take time. It will take time for government. It will take time for Parliament to agree on it or not. So that will take several years. And I trust that at that time, those parties that have the monopolies or state participations will be ready then.
Okay, excellent. It's well, is there anything you'd like to add, René, from your point of view, or priorities for the regulator at the moment before we finish?
Not quite sure. No, not really. I think those are the issues at hand right now here in our country. And of course, the really dominant issue is the opening up of the remote gambling market, which is a huge effort for everybody here in this country concerned with gaming and concerned with the regulation on it.
Yeah. Are there any particular concerns that the regulator has? I mean, I know you at the moment they're looking for an operator to run a helpline that will be launched. I believe to coincide with the launch of the online gaming market.
I'm not sure whether I understand your question, Joe.
Are there particular concerns from the regulatory point of view about the priorities to have in place for when online gaming, the licensed online gaming market goes live?
Yeah, of course, it will be the license application process and handling those applications by our market regulator, by our people. Because, well, if we have some 80 applicants, something like that, and we have all those processes to do, which is quite exhaustive. There are many, many issues we have to check. It's about reliability. It's about securing financial positions of players, about, well, all those issues are very detailed in our legislation. And so we have to test it at a very detailed way. And that, of course, will be a crucial part of opening up the market.
And the operators that are currently targeting Dutch customers, are they sort of going to be tolerated until the launch of the licensed markets, and their current operations won't necessarily rule them out of the running from license, aside from things we mentioned, such as the advertising mentioning the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, what government has said, and also on Parliament, was also a parliamentary motion to stimulate government that operators that actively targeted Dutch consumers for the last 2 years, at least 2 years before they make the application for a future license, they could not get into the country yet. So the standard on this is actively targeting Dutch consumers, Dutch players. So that is what we will be looking for in future at our reliability test.
Yeah, so we form part of that. Okay.
Yeah. So Parliament and government said we need a cooling down period for those operators.
Okay, and have you seen a reaction to that? Have you seen operators who have taken that on board and stopped targeting Dutch players as a result?
What we saw is that several operators changed their habits in a certain sense. For example, payment methods that are very popular in the Netherlands. They stopped using them, and some other adaptations about the way they present themselves in the markets.
Okay. Well, thank you, René. Thank you very much for your time, for joining.
Yep.
You're very busy overseeing.
My pleasure.
So we look forward to seeing the developments and speaking to you again in the future.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, René.